the Russ Westbrook thing went like literally 5 minutes after it happened in Utah. I saw it in the palm of my hand on my phone. What's your stance on what happened in Utah last night, Ray?
Well, I keep waiting for the Jazz to do what seems to me to be the obvious thing, which is to come out boldly and aggressively against the fan and behavior like that. Because there's an example in England from over the weekend that hasn't been brought up in the couple of hours that this has gone on, which is a Birmingham fan ran on the field and punched Aston Villa's Jack Grealish during a game.
In the neck from behind. I saw that.
Right. And it seems like we're not that far away from that again. Every once in a while, and it's sort of cyclical, fans have decided that they're not enough of the proceedings. And I get where you could get frustrated because you're paying so much money to get the experience that they're offering you. But you throw that in, you throw in alcohol, you throw in the idea that fans are part of the home court advantage. And it doesn't take very long to go from abusive language to a felony.
Well,
so,
in that respect, Ray, if I can just jump in here, because I'm sure there are some fans that might be thinking this, hearing you say this, or watching it, that the fan did not appear to be drunk and said he didn't say anything wrong, Ray.
Well, okay, but at some point there's a line that's being nudged really hard here, and if there aren't limits, sort of just civil limits that you can obey, whether you're drunk or not, then you're going to get a really blurry line like the one we have here. And at that point, Russell Westbrook's going to get fined for this. I mean, we know that. But, the Jazz have had more than a few incidences of this. And I don't know if it's because the fans there feel like they have to really make it difficult for other teams to play there, or whether there's a more cultural component going on. But it seems to me that an organization as progressive as Utah's has to be sort of a lot more aggressive about this, because this is not the first time their fans have been singled out by players for language that enrages. If this was a first-time incident, maybe you could say, okay, you pull the fan aside and you say, listen, that's not happening again, or you can either sit up in the last row of the arena, or you can just never come again. But this is, this is not a first time for Utah fans. And at some point, you've got to draw a line, or the line's going to get drawn for you by the cops.
Well, what about the NBA drawing a line and getting these fans further away from the action? I mean, they're right on top of it. I mean, just somebody who's, I'm sure, spent many time on press row, Ray. It's all right there.
Yeah.
And it only serves to, obviously, it's great for a kid, or we all know Russ was touched by a kid a couple weeks ago, and his initial reaction was rightfully so. He had no idea who's touching him. It seems like the players are more touchy than ever, and I'm wondering if this is part of the powder keg, for the lack of a better phrase, here.
Well, I mean, the fans have been right next to players for decades. The people who got moved away from court proximity was the media, because they were obviously the big problem. Mm-hmm. So, teams can't charge $2,500 a ticket if they move you back 6 feet or 10 feet or 12 feet. I mean, a Warrior game, there's nothing but high rollers on that front row. Well, if you don't have wall-to-wall, high rollers, then that second row is anybody who can get something on the secondary ticket market. And that's where they don't sort of have price controls. So you end up taking your chances, and they're not giving that up. There's too much money for teams to make by having their fans right there. And so that's not going to change. What has to change is teams' tolerance for fans crossing that line, and it has to be visible so that players see that something's being done. Conversely, Russell Westbrook doesn't really get to threaten a woman unless the woman it can be shown to have been aggressively part of this. And at that point, then you have another debate. But I think the league will obviously take some money from Westbrook, and Westbrook will feel like, okay, that's a price I'm going to pay because I'm going to keep doing this as long as this keeps going on. But at some point, somebody's not going to have that sense of restraint. Somebody's going to go in the stands, and then what have you got? So I think at some point Utah's got to be more, not only aggressive, but publicly aggressive about dealing with this. And the NBA is going to have to come out, and I would suspect that Adam Silver will do that today because he's usually pretty up on sort of serious issues that come up before him. And he's going to have to make it clear that the line has finally been hit. We've reached the third rail, and the only thing that's left after this is to watch people get electrocuted.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.